As always, that was very beautiful. Laurel Federbush is again with us today, and it's always a joy and a pleasure to have her here with us. And thank you very much for taking the effort to come all the way from Ann Arbor.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and that piece you just played was?
It's called Rose Twig. I made it up. It's Rose Twig is a translation of Rosenzweig, which is my mother's maiden name. So it's since I'm going to be playing a couple of Jewish songs, I just thought that the Rosenzweig is a Jewish name, and so I just thought I would bring that in.
Yeah, it was a very nice piece. I mean, you did that, like I said. I mean, I think we talked about that before. We started, recording this, that you were going to play a piece that you did actually compose yourself. Now, did you actually write that down, or is that just from memory?
I don't notate it. I made it up, by playing it on the harp, and I just sort of remember it. I made a couple mistakes there, so I apologize for that. But
okay, but since it's your own piece, nobody knows it's a mistake, so you don't have to admit to it, though. No. But anyway, I think it's just a really beautiful piece. It had a very kind of a very light feeling to it. I really liked it, enjoyed it.
Well, thank you.
How many pieces do you think you composed over the years now?
A whole lot. I mean, they're mostly just kind of short things like that. That was even longer than a lot of my pieces are, but I've just always liked to compose. But I mean, they're just, by compose, I mean things that I play at my events. They're not things that other people, around the country are playing or anything like that. So
I think I think that a person who's a good musician, you learn to do the covers, like in pop bands or rock bands. You play the covers. But I think it's really kind of a mark of achievement is when you can actually compose and write your own song. I don't even know how to begin to do that. I mean, it amazes me that people do that. And I mean, especially when something is more complicated than just the three chords of a guitar, the guitar range, usually the typical guitar range. By the way, how many chords are there chords on a harp?
Yeah, you can play any chord on the harp that you can play on a piano or guitar or other instrument.
So how many are there, though?
I don't know. It takes a better person than I to answer that question, but a whole lot, yeah.
Yeah, because I know it's like, usually I think it's three chords and most people play on guitar. I think it's probably possible to get range using that, capo or whatever it's called, the clamping.
I guess I tend to like music that has kind of unexpected chords thrown in. Like that to me makes a song more interesting. Like I find that the songs that I like tend to be songs where there's some chord in there that you're not expecting that shows up, and so like chords that are songs that are just three chords. Unless there are three very interesting chords, I don't usually find that interesting. But that's just me. I mean, and of course the chords aren't the only thing. It could be that a song has really beautiful lyrics or something like that. So there could be other factors that override it. But for me, the harmonies are kind of one of the things I look for as being very interesting.
So, I was thinking about this, reflecting this, that during the course of, I've seen of harp players, and I've seen a few of them, at concert venues, stuff like that. I can't remember anybody actually playing harp and singing along with it. Is that a real rare occurrence, or?
Yeah, well, I actually do some of that, but I don't have anything prepared, and I'm also not a very good singer. One of these days, I'll probably inflict that on you, come in here and sing and play the harp with something, but I'm kind of working on my voice right now, but it is something people do. Like my first harp teacher is Stephanie Bennett. She's out in the Hollywood area right now, and she does some things like that where she sings and accompanies herself on the harp, and other people do it. That's what the troubadours used to do that in Ireland and hundreds of years ago.
Well, see, I was wondering though, because the size of the harp, I was wondering if that would have like play a factor, a role in somebody doing that, because I think this kind of harp's more complicated than say the smaller type that the minstrel or the troubadour was use. So would that have something to do with it, perhaps? Because
probably, yeah.
Yeah, because I've never seen anybody with. I mean, I remember like at the Renaissance festivals and other places, the small harps are played in song. People sing along with them as they're playing them, but nothing like this large.
Was it Joanna Newsom? I think that's her name. She does some of that now. She does a lot of kind of avant-garde, experimental kinds of music, but she sings and plays the harp.
Yeah, it's like now it's just Now it's like I remember there was a violin player who was out of one of the Asian countries a few years ago. It was kind of the rage, and she was a beautiful woman. She was just phenomenal with the violin, and she was also very kind of like she was just an extreme presence on her own because she was a beautiful woman. She played this violin just extraordinarily well. I can't remember her name though. I mean, I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. From Malaysia or Singapore.
Midori or.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember
Okay.
her. And it's just like she kind of created almost like a pop following for violin
Okay.
music, and pop music is like that's another thing we were talking earlier today about pop music. You and I were, and I can't recall. I think there's a couple of songs that it was on the Really Hot Radio Play that actually had harps incorporated into the song, but that doesn't seem to be all that big of an occurrence either. I mean, which I think is a shame because
Yeah, well, I would agree, of course. Listen, I probably talked about this before, but Florence and the Machine is one pop band now that uses a harp, and there are probably some others. Years ago, there was a Detroit area band that I guess my mom knew someone who knew the mother or something. So, but the kids had this band called Art in America.
Yeah, I remember that. I was going to bring that up.
You knew them? Okay.
Yeah, I remember seeing.
I didn't know if anyone knew them besides me, but they were very good from the music I've heard of theirs. But I got to sit in on one of their rehearsals, and that was really cool for me. The daughter who played the harp had this electronically, I guess her harp had all these electronic pickups on it, and she was playing on it. But they had some really, really nice music.
Yeah, because another thing is kind of side note too. I was like, I used to love the band 707, and they had a song that was really, they had a lot of radio play in the Flint area, and I thought I remember hearing that they were actually based out of Detroit, and they were. And some guy posted on YouTube, and so I posted something. He posted something back. Well, come to find out, this guy actually used to be one of the players in the band. He's now a minister in Georgia. But it was like kind of interesting that he kind of like put that behind him, the music, because he's got this calling to be a minister. But the music, I mean, the 707's music was never raunchy, raw, or dirty, or anything to be ashamed of. But that was about the same time 707 Art in America were coming out. It was probably 82, 83 era. And I remember that Art in America had a couple of songs that one song called Art in America from the TV.
Yeah, that was
it was really a big. They had a lot of radio play around here.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, so
very good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, so it's like I was just going to ask you about that. I was like, that's such a coincidence, really.
And I apologize. There might be some other bands that I'm not mentioning that I should be mentioning. I guess I'm not always as familiar with other harpists or things as I should be. But.
Well, it's like what I think is amazing is the amount of talent Michigan seems to produce. I mean, musical or whatever. I mean, I was just watching with the first movie called Expendables, which is not a great movie, for like for any standards, just a raw kind of action movie. But one of the guys in there is actually from the Flint area, one of the actors there. Because my friend was telling me about, I was asking about the movie. He goes, "Yeah, there's one guy that plays the character in that." He described the guy, and within 3 scenes, from 3 minutes after him describing the guy's physical appearance, he was on the screen. And he said he was like he graduated from like either Southwestern or Central High School or something, like from Locals High School. So I mean, we do have a lot of talent out there, and it seems like it's Michigan does produce a lot of musical talent. I think. The Interlochen music, was it? Did you ever go to Interlochen?
I went to the All-State program. That's the 2 year, or I'm sorry, two week sessions. They have an all-summer program, 8 weeks, but I always went to the 2 week session at All-State.
Because my brother, he has a computer-based business up there. Not based. He works on computers and he does networking. And he worked up there at Interlochen for a few years back. And I remember visiting the place when I was a kid with my family. So I mean, it was like, and that seems to attract a lot of people. When you look at their resume, they have like that on there, that experience being up at Interlochen.
Right.
It's across the international scene.
That's true. Yeah. Oh, they also have an arts academy that's all year long. But yeah, that's a really amazing place.
It's like,
of course, I always got homesick when I went there, but that's just me, I'm sure.
You always got what?
I always got homesick.
Yeah. Well, it's like, yeah, you probably would. I mean, you're from like the Ann Arbor area, weren't you?
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, that's a different setting. So it's kind of more rural,
for sure. Yeah.
kind of isolated.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really beautiful setting, so like I'm sure a lot of people really relish the isolation, being in this beautiful pine forest kind of area with water. But it's so different from Ann Arbor. To me, it was just kind of like way too isolated. But I guess everyone's different that way. So.
No, it's like you've been playing a lot of gigs down by where you live at, like Ann Arbor and Detroit area, in the past few weeks. What type do you really like to do? Do you like to do the weddings or stuff, or do you like to do like?
I like to do all the gigs that I do.
You don't want to alienate anybody, so.
Well, one thing I like about the work I do is that there is variety. It's not like I'm only playing in orchestras or only one orchestra or only playing for one client. I get to meet a lot of different people, so there's a lot of I play a lot of different styles. I get to play popular music for weddings or receptions or other things, and I got to play the orchestral repertoire, and I get to play musicals or operas. So it's keeps, it's just very exciting with a lot of variation.
Now, I wish I had the talent musically, because I always like listen to music. I'm a fond appreciator of it, but it seems like so disciplined, and we've talked about that during our different conversations that basically there's something in you when you're a kid that probably was a lot different than a lot of other kids. You were willing to commit yourself to something probably on a daily basis for hours.
Yeah, of course, my parents kind of made me do it. It's like, you're going to practice tonight, or so. There was some outside influence, and I wasn't the most motivated kid. I guess the thing I did that a lot of people do, that don't, a lot of people maybe don't stick with an instrument. They might take it up and then leave it. But I guess the main thing I did was I stuck with the harp. But I wasn't that motivated. I had to have my parents push me to practice, and I would always. I'm a procrastinator, so I would probably not practice that hard during the week, and then right before a lesson really cram in all the practicing, and so I'm not sure I'm the best example to follow, but then at some point, like in 8th grade, I realized that if I started doing my technical exercises to work on my technique, that it really made a difference. Like before that, I didn't really do those, even though I was supposed to. And then I realized if I did the technique exercises, that I had much more control over my playing, and I could make it sound the way I wanted to. So that was very exciting for me. So then I started being more disciplined as a musician.
You found out there was a reason why they were teaching you to do something in a certain way.
Yes.
Because I think a kid and a lot of people do that. They want to kind of jump steps, skip steps, and I'm beginning to play chess more, and it's a game, people think, but there's such a complex game. It really is. The development of the beginning of the game, the openings, the mid game, the end game. There's so many.
I don't know.
What do you say?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
It's like, and so and then I can remember seeing that In Search of Bobby Fischer, the coach.
That's a great movie.
That's a great movie. Well, remember that Pat Affine's the character, or whatever his name was, his coach that was played by Ben Kingsley. He was real rigid and stuff like that, and he was admonish him not to play a lot of this, speed chess play games and stuff, but actually they did come up on an idea that basically he had to need both, more of the concentrated game where it was more thoughtful and meditative almost, or where you took your time to make your moves, and also play, varied it up with the speed chess players he was playing in the park. And there's a reason why, his coach, his chess coach or chess teacher was, tell them to have these steps. You can't really sidestep that. And it's amazing too. If you look at any kind of discipline, the amount of work that had been done, so you can actually just have it pre-digested and handed to you, and you don't really appreciate that until you stumble so much, and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, I'll try it this way. Finally, in exasperation, you try it the way you're taught. It works.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Yeah, that's very well put. Yeah, and I've had. Once in a while, I've had a student that I think dropped out because they sort of wanted, either they or their parents kind of wanted instant results, and that doesn't usually happen. Sometimes I'm amazed how quickly a student picks something up that might have taken me or most people years to learn. So sometimes people do have what seems like instant results, but that isn't very typical. And so if you want to just be able to sit down and play some really deluxe piece right away, or it just probably isn't going to happen. So some people find that disappointing.
I'm just amazed that people have the discipline, especially nowadays. It's an instant gratification society. Video games. I've heard people actually think they have the expertise in doing golf or something because they do the Wii or something like that. They think because they play it there, they're going to make it. It's going to translate to the actual game being really good for them. And I don't think it's up to the games at that point. I think simulation and stuff like that is far above what it used to be. But I think basically you can't do away with the simple actual doing of golfing or whatever, tennis playing. You just can't do away with that.
Right.
But it's they have Guitar Hero. Would you like to that might be a good thing for you, maybe become a harp hero or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I don't really know what's involved with that, but
I have a friend who's a guitar player, very accomplished, very excellent, I would say, and he played Guitar Hero over at one of his friends' houses one night, and he had a hard time with it. And this guy could actually nail the two notes and everything on a real guitar, but he just couldn't do it on that. Everybody else is kind of joking with it. Are you sure you're a guitar player? But he just had a hard time because it's a small guitar. It's real. It doesn't have a good feel towards it.
Right.
And
Yeah, of course, as a traditional kind of musician, I get kind of nervous about things like that. You never know, maybe pretty soon they might have a whole synthetic orchestra and not need people like me anymore. So kind of wonder, but
I hope not myself, because I think there's a beauty to hearing the sound, and also I think the person behind it adds a lot to the significance of any artistic endeavor. I mean, be it music or be it the plastic arts or the sculpture, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
I think that and it's like I can see somebody like doing a computer, what they call a numerically controlled machine, the CNCs or whatever they call it. They can actually do everything because you set it up and it's programmed. But when it comes to artistic work, you do want those flourishes and that kind of vision or those ideas that the artist has. So even though machines are capable of doing it with robotics and computerization, I just like a synthesizer music's got a place for a fill, but I wouldn't want it. I don't really like bands. That's all they depend on.
Yeah, sometimes the couple of engineers I've run into, it seems like they listen to music differently because they're so used to electronic music that they evaluate like an acoustic performance by how precise it is, and that's not really some engineer I talked to completely redid, not my harp part fortunately, but someone's harp part, because I guess they said it was out of tune, and maybe it was, I didn't hear it, but they replaced it with a synthesized harp. And to me that seems kind of weird that you would prefer a synthesized sound, even if it's more precise and more perfect, to a real harp. I mean, some of the things that's wrong with a synthesized sound is that it is so perfect and precise that it's mechanical.
Yeah, that's right. Like, there's a big argument too about digitally remastered albums that are out there. The classics of rock and roll, the classics of it. Especially like a lot of orchestral pieces and symphonies and stuff. A lot of people are purists. They'd rather listen to it on the vinyl, the analog signal being recorded rather than the digital. And I remember reading about that when I was going to computer classes, like a combination of they're like cognitive science classes. They're like dealing with, it's a disciplinary approach, and they were telling us the difference. The first time I ever seen about analog and digitalization, and this is like 20 years ago now, over 20 years ago. And I was kind of they showed the difference because they allege that digitalization is like more precise. But then again, I think a lot of times you have to have so they would probably refer to it as the slop in between,
right?
Because I think that matters. I mean, it's like I think they always say the devil or the God or whatever is in the details. Well, I think that's the way it is with music or artistic work. But anyway, now you during the summer, did you there's a lot of events going on in Ann Arbor. You're part of those a lot of times, aren't you? Like different.
Not so much lately. I think mostly in the summer I do weddings.
Yeah.
So once in a while I've done summer orchestras. I didn't this past couple of years, but sometimes they have summer orchestra events that I'm involved with. But mosely weddings in the summer, or also coffee shops. I played at a couple of coffee shops this last summer in Ann Arbor. So.
And that harp, or just fill an area. I mean, I go to that cafe down there, right across from the Diag down there in Ann Arbor. And that's a pretty large one. I could, if you were playing there, you could probably fill that place with music. That's a really large place. I don't. It's the Royal Cafe or Cafe Royale or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like
I have played Espresso Royale.
Espresso Royale. That's it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one I play at, I play at the Grand Traverse Pie Company in Ann Arbor on Zebro. They play their Thursdays, 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. And then in the summer, I played on Sunday mornings at the Great Lakes Chocolate and Coffee Company on Jackson Road. So
see, that's a great mix. You get to play your music, you get paid for that, and you also get to have coffee and chocolate and stuff you're not supposed to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, anyway, if you want, do you have another piece in mind you want to play, or?
Yeah, so I was talking about the Jewish theme. One of the there's a Jewish folk song, Hine Matov, the words, which I'm not going to sing, Hine Matov U'Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad, how good and how pleasing for brothers to live as one. I think that's sort of a rough translation.
It's from the Psalms 133.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's from Psalms.
Have you as a resource there?
Yeah, it's like it was like, so okay, let's hear that.
Okay, my rendition of it.
That was beautiful. That was just very, like, I guess the word stunning would come to my mind, but I don't know if that was fitting for a musical piece. But
Well, thank
now, now, like, playing an instrument and singing too, I find this too. People have this repertoire of music, and it's like I'm always kind of really surprised that you have, I don't know how many songs you have floating around in that cranial cavity. I mean, you have to. How does that work? I mean, when you play. I mean, I know like musically singing songs sometimes I can't recall a lyric unless I sing the song.
Okay, that's
And then that way, then the whole thing there's like a flow to it. Like words are together by themselves to stand out, and they're like they stick out like this, and they're not threaded together. But when I was a kid, I always imagined a song as basically like cursive writing instead of printing. And there's a flow to it instead of that's what I always imagined music as being. Yeah. So I don't know if that's, but I mean that's the way I see it now. When you're starting, do you have like ability? Do you have the ability like, to isolate musical pieces and selections by notes, or is there a kind of flow for you as well?
I think that's sort of the way often if someone makes a mistake and has to stop in the middle of the piece, they have to start again from the beginning or from way far back. Like they can't just pick up right there. Like one of my harp teachers encouraged us to practice so that we would sort of stop in the middle and start in very random places so that we would, so that you wouldn't have to go all the way back to the beginning. But that's sort of partly I think often musicians do see the whole piece as sort of like one thing with a flow to it. If you get out of the flow, it's kind of difficult to get back into it. But
yeah,
that's right.
I mean, did you ever know? It seems like you're in a different place when you're playing. I mean, I've noticed that with other musicians as well and singers. They seem like to go to another place, and it's like basically that they're really centered on that, and it seems like everything around. Does that happen for you, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always every time you play, it's different. Different mental space. Sometimes you have to work very hard. It feels like you're working really hard just to do it. Like it feels like every measure is difficult. You have to concentrate as hard as you can to get anything right. And then sometimes it feels like it comes kind of effortlessly, or sometimes it even feels like maybe someone else is playing the harp and I'm just sitting there watching it. So it can be different ways at different times.
No, I noticed too though, like singers and like especially in rock bands and pop music, they're on stage, they're sweating so profusely, and it's like and then I think I've seen guitar players and I've seen drummers certainly do that. And it is kind of a very physical. It's kind of a unity. There's almost like a mind-body melding thing going on there when you're in music. I think just like martial arts or sports, there's a lot of commonality in that.
Right.
So I mean, do you actually look back at some of the stuff you work like? You're surprised yourself by things that you did, like you pulled it off. You're really tired. You went in there and you started playing, and like, wow, I did it. You just got so caught up with it.
Well, I think I'm often surprised because sometimes, like in the morning, I get up and maybe I feel well, like I feel like I have a headache or a stomach ache, or gee, I might be coming down with something. But somehow, if I have to play somewhere, it seems like my body kind of rallies its forces and. I get there, I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm, on top of my game. It seems like my body kind of, and my mind kind of cooperate to make it happen. So in that way, I'm kind of, of course, I pray too. So, I'm sure it's not just me. I like to attribute it to a higher power also. But, it seems like things fall into place more than they would if I didn't really want to do it a lot of the time. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, there's a lot of times when we come into the studio. A lot of times I don't feel well. I mean, I'm tired, and like especially doing interviews. A lot of times, you have to be trying to think a couple ahead of squares ahead of the game. You have, especially me when I'm running the board as well as. So it's like sometimes I don't know if I'm up to it, and it's not hard work, but mentally it's hard to get focused sometimes and start on that. I mean,
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, talking about exercises, that's another good thing about the exercises besides just your technique. They kind of it's kind of a way to get your mind into focusing on the harp. Like, when I first sit down, my mind might be a million other places, but if I sit down and do some exercises, it sort of brings your mind in before you're doing something that's more mentally demanding on the harp. So.
Now it's like I can imagine too, like a harp would probably be much more of an enjoyable musical instrument to be around when a child's learning how to use it, play it, than say a horn or drums, for God's sakes. I mean,
well, that's what my dad said. He thought it was an instrument that was, listening to me practice was probably less painful than listening to some other kind of, instrument the kid might be starting up on.
No, it's like the rest of you have like brothers and sisters as well, right?
I have a brother in Arizona. He's an architect, but he played the banjo. You know, like he and I always had to be doing different things. Like some families, I think everyone sort of has similar interests and they all kind of do the same thing. But in our family, we all had to sort of be doing our own thing. So, you know, I played the harp, he played the banjo, which is about as far, we did things as far away from each other as possible. But now I think he picks it up once in a while, but he was actually very good at it, but I guess he didn't really pursue it.
No, I like banjo. I mean, I think it's a distinctly an American instrument too. I don't know if it was from Europe or anything else. I mean, I have to look that up.
I think it has African roots, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I ask Bella Fleck. I really like Bella Fleck, actually. He's one of the musicians.
No, who's that?
He's a banjo player who does kind of experimental things with the banjo.
Okay.
He plays bluegrass, but he also, plays more jazz or classical, or, he sort of expands the horizons of the banjo.
Lester Flats and Earl Scruggs was like the ones that when I was come to mind when I was a kid. They played it for like the Beverly Hillbillies in the theme song. I think it was, and see, I grew up. My family had a little bit kind of not distaste, but they kind of looked down on banjo music. But when I got older, I started. My grandfather had a small one. My mom's father had one in his collection, and I was looking at it. And the one he had, it looked like it was a tambourine, but it had like the strings on it. And it was like, it was probably pretty crudely made. I mean, it was probably somebody's put it together in their own workshop. But I mean, it kind of intrigued me. And he could actually pick it up and play. I mean, he was very good with string instruments. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he could ever play a harp, but he could play the mandolin, the guitar. Right. He could play the ukulele. He could play the what else was it? There's another like something like
versatile.
Yeah, he's very versatile. Well, his sister was a violinist, and so the family is musical. I can sing fairly decent, but I'm very shy about singing publicly, so I don't sing publicly. But I can sing pretty well, I've been told. So I mean, but that's probably my niece Courtney is very good at music, and she plays keyboard. She can play flute, and she can also play a little bit of guitar, and she sings very well. Mm-hmm. So I mean, she had the opportunities to do it. See, in public school, a lot of times we had it there, but you had so many kids, involved in it that you didn't really get one-on-one attention with the teacher. Like she did. She had like a tutor, a teacher for that. So
that's a very good thing for a kid to have.
I like the arts programs in schools. I like that. I think it should be. It's just tragic that they're being cut back, but schools right now are diminishing around. I mean, it's awfully hard to find a public school in this town that's open, because they're just the population's decreased so much, and I've seen. I hope somebody down the road comes. Well, there is a guy who does actually musical things for youth. He's like he works at one of the UAW halls. That's where he teaches out of and stuff. So
okay, actually in Flint here you have, is it the Flint Institute, or you have some music school that's very active here. So that's very fortunate.
For some reason, a lot of people feel like reluctant to go there because a sense of and I don't think it's deserved. I mean, it's like I think they're there for everybody. But I've talked to people and they're reluctant to send their kid there because they think that's where the snobs send their kids.
Oh.
So. And it's because it's a beautiful. I mean, Flint's got some great gems. Right in the middle of it that people just are totally unaware of. They just look at the crime.
Oh, my friend, just to put in the plug for Lydia Cleaver. I think she's still the harp instructor there, but she teaches there, and she's a very good harp teacher. So I would encourage anyone to study with her who has the opportunity, or I'm sure that they have other good harp instructors too from time to time. So that's good.
And I think so too. I mean, I definitely won't trash anything that goes on in Flint that's more like of the cultural thing, the arts, because I think that's more. I think those are actually. I think those kind of things are a great thing to keep people anchored in, trying to go on to the next generation. It's like hopelessness is not a good thing, and if we surrender to that, we're not going to go anywhere. And it's very easy to go that route. I mean, I'm a pessimist and a very skeptical person. I mean. Just the other day, there's a shooting. Just yesterday, there's a shooting down the street from my house. 5 houses down.
About that.
So, I mean, it gets very hard to be upbeat and optimistic, but to trash somebody or to even make a disparaging mark against any group or people that are just trying to keep things going on the plus side, on the positive side, it just to use the term, it's asinine, and it's just very harsh and it's very cruel because there's a lot of good people out there who, despite all the odds, are still really trying to keep this place kind of somewhat of a livable place.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you live here, so you have a different perspective. I don't come to Flint that often, but I come here for your radio show, which is
we appreciate that too.
And come here to play at weddings and I think a couple of other events, but when I always view it as kind of a happening place because every time I come, it's to play at some kind of upbeat event. So, and I guess there's some kind of nice. I don't remember which hotel I played at, but it was really beautiful in the downtown area, and so there's a lot of things that someone coming into your city would see and be very hopeful about.
Yeah, I'd hope so. I mean, it's just I can't really talk about Flint without getting emotional. I mean, my family's been here. Well, right on where we're at now. Right in the neighborhood where we're at now, my family's been here 80 years, and that's a long time. Most people can't even trace their family back 80 years, and then almost 6 generations being in the same neighborhood. So I mean, it's like it's disheartening to see the town go to seed like it has. But the musical and the talent we have coming here, like Tom Sumner, he always says the talent pool you find in and around Flint is about as good as it gets anywhere else in the country, and I remember hearing him saying that, and I reflected on that. I really think I don't think he's using one bit of exaggeration. And he's musical himself. He involved himself with music for decades. And sorry, Tom, if you're not, you are older, but
Luke Bryan, is that the name of some country music singer? But I heard a country music song on the radio I really liked the other day. I looked it up, and it was by him, and it talked about the Flint River. Is that around here, or?
The Flint what?
Flint River.
Oh, that's right down the street from here.
Okay, yeah, because there's this kind of popular country music song right now that mentions the Flint River, so I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I hope it's the same one we have. There's a couple of Flint Rivers in the United States. I looked it up one time, but the Flint River is like I live right by it. I mean, it's just about 4 blocks down from where the studio's at, and the Flint River is like it's actually a pretty river. I mean, it was polluted for the factory output and stuff, but it's got a lot of fish are coming back into it, a lot of wildlife settling back around there. I see foxes, I see deer. They use that as a highway. The riverbank. If you got a riverbank, that's where the animals are going to travel through. I mean, It's always been that way. They like water, need water. So, there's a lot of good things in Flint. I mean, and actually, I'm kind of a sad person in some ways. I kind of actually welcome a lot of buildings being taken down because now it just opens it up for more. I think things you can do differently. I mean, trying to find people to move in these houses or occupy these buildings, it's pretty much a no-go. It's not going to happen. But, you just keep things fallow. In a few years, when the colleges start getting booming, people got open space to expand. And that's it. And it's going to be 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 years. The town's not going to be totally dead, but it's taken a hard hit in the past 30 years. So, anyway, I'm gonna kind of press upon you. Maybe you could play another piece. And
oh yeah, one of the things I grew up grew up in a secular household, and recently I became more of a practicing Jew. I started going to the synagogue more, and I'm kind of learning. I'm kind of beginning level, but I'm learning about it now. But one of the things that I did this last summer that I really enjoyed doing was I got my bat mitzvah. That's usually something kids do. 13. Was it maybe 12 for a girl? I'm not sure. I have to look back, but they do it, when they were kids, and I did it as an adult, and that's sort of when you become a woman or a man, in the Jewish faith. Or when you assume the responsibilities, the commandments. So, anyway, there's a kind of chanting that we do at the synagogue. When you read the Hebrew, you do it in kind of a chant melody. And this is a piece that I made up based on a fragment of one of the chant melodies that I did for my bat mitzvah. And this is called Upon a Bed of Sapphires. Because that was from the Haftarah reading that I did the chant from.
Again, a very beautiful piece there. And again, what was the name of that piece?
Upon a Bed of Sapphires.
Oh, beautiful piece. And anyway, we're going to wrap this conversation up today, and I'll have this up at different places, and people have the contact information where to reach you at, and they book you through Rush Entertainment, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and it's I'll put the number, but I'll also give the number out now. The number to call is 989-781-1553, or you guys also they have a. I'll post all this up on the posting, but anyway, I'll give the number out, and also they can contact you directly to just talk to you, get to know you through, or would you not rather do that, or through Facebook? Or
they could.
Yeah.
Facebook, it's not just a business. I post some more personal things that reflect my own opinions and things like that, so people might not. It's not only about music, so
right.
People might not want to deal with me as a person. If they just but if they do, then they're free to friend me on Facebook also.
Yeah, because I think that's it's a good a vehicle to get out there and get people to contact you, and definitely you definitely are an impressive talent, and I'm always glad to have you come in here. And I also think it's just shows a tremendous amount of dedication for you to come up here from Ann Arbor every time, and it's like sometimes you've been up here, it's pretty bad winter out, and you've made it up here. So anyway, everybody, Laurel Federbush, if you want to contact her, I'll have the information out posted with it. And Laurel, thank you very much.
Thank you.